there were still things that I was doing, like people pleasing and living in the way that I thought society felt like I should. And I didn't like that either, you know? And so I just want to love what I'm doing. I want to love who I'm doing it with. And I love women so much. I feel like we're just such badass women that I knew I wasn't alone. You know, again, I'm here to guide you and hold a mirror about from what I see, but you have to see that within yourself. And so to see, there's a handful of them that have just stepped into it and they've never looked back.
Welcome to Power and Purpose Within. I'm Kori Burgess, and each show we celebrate creators, founders, authors, and people who actually enjoy their careers. Can you believe that? They actually enjoy their careers. And they enjoy it because they chose the career. That's what we're going to delve into. Now, some may look unconventional, and that's the beauty in this, it's the celebration in this show. Their journey could be your incentive to begin your journey. So today we celebrate Melissa Cruz. And Melissa Cruz is an author, a speaker, and a coach. Her business is called Iris Bloom Coaching. Melissa, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy you're here. So right now, I always pull up your website. So I'm looking at the Iris Bloom Coaching, helping women gain clarity, confidence, and direction. You know, that's important because a lot of times we as women, we're pulled in all different directions, aren't we? And we get fuzzy brained and all those things. So tell me, first of all, why you started this business and how you created it, because you're a creator.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much for asking. So Iris Bloom came about because of love and loss. And so I was turning 40 last year, and, a few months into turning 40, I just felt like there was so much misalignment in my life. I was ending a decade, going into another one, and I didn't quite like every part of my life, and so I remembered that I have choices, and I can make decisions and I can make hard choices if I needed to. And the loss part of that was next week will be 5 years that I lost my sister. And I had been for the last 5 years thinking of a way to honor her. It was just her and I wanted to do something where I can still share her stories, her memories, and really kind of keep her in the center of what I was doing. And so it just felt like last year it was the right time to stop being so focused into real estate and build something that I was proud of, that I can kind of do with her, in her honor. And Iris is her middle name. And so I created Iris Bloom Coaching. And, I just felt like there were still things that I was doing, like people pleasing and living in the way that I thought society felt like I should. And I didn't like that either, and so I just want to love what I'm doing. I want to love who I'm doing it with. And I love women so much. I feel like we're just such badass women that I knew I wasn't alone in feeling how I was feeling, and so I just made choices and made changes in my life. And I want to help other women recognize that within themselves as well, that we may not like and love all parts of our lives all the time, but we can change it, as we sometimes make it seem.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. So your desire is literally life coaching for women only, correct?
Correct. And business. Okay. Yes. So this will be my 10th year in the industry of real estate.
Do you coach realtors?
I do. I do still. Yeah.
And brokers?
Yeah.
Okay. And is that specifically who you coach for business, or do you coach in different aspects of business, like sales or marketing or?
Yeah. So it's women in different industries.
Okay, it is. Okay, so it doesn't have to be just real estate. Okay.
Yes, and that's such a great question because it was real estate solely for so long, but many women reaching out to me that weren't in the industry that were saying to me, I feel like you're coaching me in your videos and I'm not even in that industry. Here's what I heard about what you said and how I applied it to my business. And I was like, that's really interesting.
Maybe I should branch out.
Maybe, yeah.
Now, I see here you also have books and planners, and you have a blog. So let's talk about the books and the planners.
Yes. So I wrote Cruise Control. It is a play on my name. And I wrote that for real estate agents specifically. It was published last year through She Rises Studio. So I don't even remember how I came across this company, but it's a women owned company. It's a mom and daughter based out of Vegas. And they help women get published.
They work with women specifically on getting their books
Yes,
published.
and it's like a one-stop shop. They help you with the editing, they help you with marketing, they help you with, I mean, everything. And it was such a blessing to find them. And I feel like it was just meant to be, because I can't remember, still people ask me, how'd you find them? I'm like, I was like in the middle of doing something else and it came across and I'm like, yes.
It was a God moment.
Yes, it was a God moment. And I originally said yes to an anthology project. And the book that came out in 2024 is called Empower Her Story. So I did get to write a chapter in that book. And that is my most vulnerable work to date. I share different aspects of my life, like defining moments. And I wrote it like a play, like you were watching a movie, like act 1, act 2. And then that gave me the opportunity to write my first solo book. And so I wanted to leave something behind for the agents coming up behind me, because I remember just having such a hard time when I first got started. Nobody in my family owned a business. And so I learned everything the hard way. And I'm like, if I can just help the next fellow person, coming behind, that's my legacy that I get to leave behind for people. And so I wrote that one, and that came out last year. It'll be a year here in May soon. And then I'm a paper planner person. I always have been. Now I do transfer that to digital just because I know we have to do that. But I used a planner for about 5 years. And when I went to order my planner for last year, they discontinued the one that I purchased every year. And so I didn't find anything I loved. I kind of just used kind of whatever. And it just was a mess. Like I just could not find my footing, my foundation, like my planner is my life. And towards the end of the year, I still could not find anything I loved. And I was like, I'll just make what I need, And then.
Because you're a creator. You're like, I'll just create it. I know what it is. I'll create it.
Yes. And, because there's always pieces in the planners that you don't end up using or, go back to. And with the loss of my sister, it made me realize how precious time in life is. And that every day that we wake up is another opportunity God has blessed us to live. When you open the book, how I teach you how to use it, how the planning goes about it, how I get you to go back to certain sections in the planner throughout the year. It's not only for other women, but for myself as well.
So when you created this planner, you didn't create it based off the other one. You made it even more detailed of what you wanted.
Yes. Because I found most paper planners, the first 10 or 20 pages, I might fill some of that stuff out, but I never go back to it. And so if I was going to design something and I wanted it to really help women, I wanted every page to count. There's quarterly sections, there's monthly sections, weekly, there's moments where I have you pause, answer a bunch of questions, reflect and pivot, extra sections in the back. So there's like a me time menu, there's affirmations, there's a page for. One page is for if you listen to a podcast, because there's so much information that we can take in, be very overwhelming. And so if you do listen to podcasts, who was it? What was the show? And what one thing did you take away that really resonated that you're going to do something with, right? Not everything.
It sounds like a journal and a planner together.
Yes.
Because it's journaling.
Yeah. And there's a section like that for books as well, So if you're reading books and you hear the one thing, or attend a class.
One thing I forgot because I'm so excited about jumping is we're going to have in the description how to contact you and all your links. And however, we're all on Spotify and Apple, and people drive when they listen, so they might not get to the description. So tell us where we can get that. Tell me where I can get that journal.
So you can find it on Amazon. If you go into the search bar and look up Iris Bloom Planner.
Okay. And all your other links.
Yes.
Because I have them here. Like I said, we'll put them in the description, but go ahead and tell us where you're located, like your website. And
Iris Bloom Coaching is the website. And so it's a little wordy, but it does give you all the information you need so that you can feel confident in reaching out to see if we're going to be a good fit to work together, or different programs that I offer. But that's Iris Bloom Coaching. So information is there. Also, Cruise Control is also on Amazon. Now, I will say that there is another Melissa Cruz who's an author. And so I would put in Cruise Control Melissa, and then my book will pop up.
And then you have your links for social media, which is your Facebook and your LinkedIn. And again, we'll have those posted so that people can get in touch with you to work with you also.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So let's move on to, let's see. You spoke about why you started, your desire to start, and what was the biggest challenge you had in starting your business?
Oh, that's such a juicy question. So I have been 1099 since 2016.
Mhm.
And I didn't realize or really understand what it meant to be an owner and an LLC on that side. And so there was a lot of business, setting things up. I did co-own a brokerage with my business partner, but she kind of did all that. And so I didn't really know what that process looked like. So it just felt like so much again that I didn't know that I had to learn. For me, I am in Colorado and there is a wonderful small business chamber that offers all their services for free. They jump on a consultation, they walk you through links to everywhere, links to get financial help for like minorities and women or just small business owners. They've been such a huge blessing in helping me get started with these little things that I just did not know that I needed to know. That was a huge learning curve for me. There's some similarities in the two, but there's not at the same time. So I definitely needed to get help doing that.
You know, what's interesting is most people, they start the business because they have a gift or they find their purpose and they're like, I'm going to start the business, but they neglect the business of the business.
Yes.
And that's so usually the hardest part is the business of the business. The people who understand the business of the business, if they start a business, they soar because all of that other stuff that's so mandatory, but it can look scary if you've never done it before, you know? So you're fortunate that you have a safety net in the small business chamber.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And I have always been the type, I'm not going to lie, that I have always been hard on myself since I was a kid. But so there was a lot of self-coaching in that moment because there was a lot of frustration of like, how did I not know this? And all these, this rabbit hole of putting myself down or questions that I thought I should have known answers to, But, I just had to remind myself and trust in God's timing, right? Like on this journey and on this path, because for me, I do want a business that is for profit, but I am doing this more for purpose. I just go back to, that's my foundation. I go back to what is God trying to teach me? What am I supposed to learn in this moment? Really slowing down, trusting his timing in it all. And that usually gets me off of the crazy train that I put myself on.
And the beauty in trusting God is that it's going to happen. It's just a matter of walking the steps, getting the knowledge, becoming wise. We all want it immediately, but if we don't have wisdom and knowledge behind it, it all falls like sinking sand. It just falls apart.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's beautiful. Because my next question was, how do you coach yourself?
Yeah, I offer coaching to myself like I do many of my clients. There's a good amount of care and candor. Because I'm hard on myself, I have to not allow myself to go that far with it, and there is tough love in myself as well. But I do a lot of praying, and I try to just, slow is not really my vocabulary, but I do find that is where I truly hear the message and where I find peace, where I can reset myself. And so I give myself opportunities to have those moments to help me, but yeah, it's a lot of just asking myself questions too. And just like I would another client, I ask myself questions and I journal and I write and I pray.
So important. Yeah. I think we as coaches get caught up in coaching others, and the number one person, if we can coach ourselves, we can be a benefit to others.
Yeah.
So,
and I remember hearing Viola Davis say this, and I'm like, oh, first of all, I love her. She had talked about in an interview that the relationship we have with ourselves is the most important one. Yes. And I'm like, yes.
It is. Yeah, we can be our biggest critic or we can be our biggest cheerleader. When you have your thoughts grounded in the Word of God, you have to go back to that. So what does he say about you? Right. And so therefore you have to speak those things over yourself because you speak it over others so easily. Right.
Well, and then I'll ask, and there's things that I pray for. And sometimes like a couple of weeks ago, I was about to ask God for some more patience. Right. And then before I asked, I said, well, let me think about, because I've been praying for that for a long time. I said, where has he given me opportunities to show patience? And started looking at all the different things over the years that he's been trying to show me that he has given me the opportunity to show patience. And I have. And so what I needed to now ask was, now, can you help me build the strength to get through certain moments, to get through certain challenges, I've made bad business decisions before. And so trusting myself again that I won't make another terrible, but can you help me with strength? So sometimes it was slowing down enough to say, what has he given me? What opportunities and how have I risen?
That's beautiful. Yeah. Pinpointing what specifically it is, because we naturally go to patience when it could be strength. Yeah. Pinpointing. Yeah. That's beautiful. If as you're listening, you realize you want more structure and support around this kind of inner work, I want to share something with you. I've created a 30-day personal growth challenge designed to help you slow down, reflect, and reconnect with yourself, one simple day at a time. It's not about perfection and it's not about pressure. It's about awareness and alignment and gentle consistency. If that feels supportive for where you're at right now, you'll find all the details linked in the episode description. So what in your business brings you joy?
When I bring on a client, they are borrowing my belief in them. The moment that they don't need it and they now truly have stepped in and believe in themselves, it is priceless, and then to see the women continue to make good choices and make those tough decisions, nothing without hurting anybody else, but just really looking at their life and how they want to live, and there's an exercise that I do with myself and I do share it with my clients, at the right time. It's not something I throw at people right away. But when I'm in the middle of making a tough choice, I imagine myself on my deathbed. Now, I imagine myself as an older woman, right? So hopefully I'm old when that happens. But I look at that woman and I ask her, if you're looking back at this moment now, what choice would you be proud that I made? And so that's one thing that really helps my clients, I think, begin to shift in making positive changes and taking those intentional steps in their life. It just goes back to like the moment they believe it and they start thinking and acting and doing the things, it's priceless.
Yeah. When they start telling you, I don't need this anymore, you've released them back into, as a butterfly.
Yes.
Right. I have a portion that's called the tap in where they can come back and they can tap in if they feel like they're, feeling a little, you can tap in, but you've already got the tools. Yeah. And you know who you are. Yeah. It's beautiful. Yeah. I love that.
So amazing.
Okay. Now, what helped you shift your mindset for the better in this business?
I did a lot of reading. So a lot of personal development reading. Again, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And the one thing that I want people to know if they have not started a business but want to, is that it is going to be a mindset thing. Like it's a mindset challenge. Every bump, every hurdle, it's just, you've got to work on your mindset and remember why you're here, who you're doing it for, and what legacy that you want to leave. But it just comes down to that, that remembering, kind of why you're here.
What books were pivotal?
Yeah. So I always read every summer. I go back to The Traveler's Gift. So Andy Andrews wrote The Traveler's Gift, and it was a book that someone else recommended to me. And I love the way he teaches you about life and ties it into historical figures. The historical figures are real, but the stories are not, but it ties into life. It is beautifully written. And it's the 7 decisions for success. And then he wrote a second book that goes deeper into those 7 decisions. And he leaves you with like a page full of affirmations for each one. And so there's moments where for 90 days, I am studying a page every day for 7 days a week and then repeat it, for 90 days. That one is so beautiful. And it really just, again, reminds you of the deeper meaning about what it is that we get to do and the people that we get to serve.
The Traveler's Gift.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I loved reading Becoming Superwoman. That one specifically I loved because the woman that wrote it used to be on TV, was an anchor. Super busy. And I learned how to become less distracted by things, right? Plugging in your phone away from your bed. So you had to get up in the morning, organizing the apps on my phone, taking off all distractions. Like I'm the type of person that if I see a notification, I have to check it. That's just my personality. And so I turned them off because I needed to find my flow. And if I was constantly distracted by all these things that really didn't matter, I could not get into a good flow. And so that one really helped me with learning how to cut distractions and just get myself organized.
So smart.
Yeah. The only ones I keep on are my kids, if their school reaches out or something.
Sure.
Other than that, don't bother. Like I have my times that I have focus for certain things. We all need a 15-minute, 20-minute breather between things. I will then check social media or check the emails or check the, whatever, but it's not something that I'm constantly being distracted by. So that one was super helpful as well.
It sounds like you have a balance in your life. Now, did that happen before you started coaching others?
I wouldn't say that I have found balance. I think I've just understood and I've learned that I like using the word harmony instead. And I found that even though time is very structured, there's still flexibility within it. And so there's things that are the same on my calendar every week, every month, and there's things that are not. And so I just,
Mhm.
I spend a lot of time planning. And so I look at my month ahead, I look at my week ahead, and I flow with, kind of what I need at that time. And so that's kind of how I
Mhm.
found harmony in my days and in my weeks, more so than
Mhm.
balance. Now I am a collective
Mhm.
freak. Like I have categories of things and I have them highlighted in my planner so that I can go back and see how much time I spent
Yeah.
to each thing, because again, there's weeks where it could be super work heavy. There's weeks where it could be super heavy,
Mhm.
and that's fine. But I can't have too many weeks in a row of either because then the other one's going to suffer. And so I'd like to just
Right.
keep check of what I'm doing to make
Mhm.
sure that I'm giving each the attention it needs and deserves because I want to be with my kids. I want to work and I want to be able to make sure I have enough time for both and be 100 present when I'm in each of those things.
Right. Tell me one of your clients that makes you just shine when you think about her. Don't tell me about her personally, but what was it that you were like, oh, this is just brilliance?
I have a couple that have really, kept coming to me, and we would talk about certain things, and then the moment happened where they said, "Okay, I've come to you now this many times. We've talked about this a lot. I'm ready to step into it and make my decision, and do what I'm afraid of, because sometimes they're just afraid of success. They're afraid that it's going to change them. And again, I'm here to guide you and hold the mirror about from what I see, but you have to see that within yourself. And so to see, there's a handful of them that have just stepped into it and they've never looked back. And it's like, that is why we do what we do. And it's just so beautiful to watch, and they're soaring in their lives. They're having the hard conversations that sometimes is really difficult to have and scary to have. And they're having massive success, and again, it's just so exciting to watch.
It's beautiful. With your practice, what would you advise women who are struggling with that clarity of who they really are? What advice would you give them?
So, one, I would say spend some time with yourself, right? Pray and really, truly, truly let go and let God. I know that's sometimes easier said than done. Remind yourself that it's still okay to be you. Like I sometimes feel like there's such a blockage in the clarity because we're still trying to answer questions and how we think other people think that we should answer them. And that's not the case. This is the only life that we have. And if you were blessed to wake up today, you owe it to yourself and to God to do what it is that you want to do, without, not with hurting, of course, not with hurting or putting anybody else down, but truly stepping into your brilliance, and in
Sure.
clarity,
Mhm.
you're stuck because you're still allowing outside factors to answer what you have inside yourself. And so, whatever it is you need to do to quiet that noise and stop considering other people and answer that question for yourself. If I were not to think about what my spouse would say, or my boss would say, or what my parents would say, what answer would you have? Because I really do believe that we all have the answers within. We're just afraid to say it out loud.
This is dynamic, what you're doing, because it's packed with a lot of juices. Like what we're talking about is you can go so deep into each zone. When you decide on taking on a client, because that's your decision also, what are some of the things that are the first things that you do with them?
So one of the first things I do, I have a list of like attributes that I look for in a client. And so
Mhm.
decisiveness is one. You gotta be able to make a
Mhm.
decision and make peace with it. So what felt like you make a right one or wrong one, they make a decision, do
Right.
something, right? No victim mentality is allowed in my world. But one of the first things I do with them is I have them take a strength finders assessment. I'm not sure if you've heard of that one before. It's one of my favorite ones that I've done for myself. And so typically what I'll do is we start off with a 2-hour strategy session before we even start coaching. And part of that is going
Right.
through that strength finders assessment and really diving into what does this look like for you? What does this mean to you? Were you surprised by anything,
Sure.
these things? Because that's
Mhm.
where we start, right? We start with your strengths,
Right.
who you are as a person, and then usually that then brings out the limiting beliefs.
Mhm.
Go
Mhm.
into a bit of like deprogramming, which can take a little while. And
Mhm.
it's kind of done simultaneously as we do coaching and reminding them, like where did this come from? Where did this begin? How do we learn this
Right.
go? And stuff like that. And so it's a little bit of it's looking within your strengths, overcoming your limiting beliefs. Again, step into your brilliance and let it go forever.
That's a great pattern for them to stay with for the rest of their lives too,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you're showing them you're showing them as you're coaching them, you're showing them you can do this without me. Let me just guide you through this. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
And then there's an exercise. So my very first coach did this with me and I loved it. And I still apply it to my life today. But it's looking at with those strengths as well and finding where do you live in it when you're in the balcony and in the basement. And so because you have this strength, but it doesn't mean that we always use it as a strength. And so when are there moments, or if you're in a moment, are you using your strength as a strength or as a weakness? And when are you using it to the best of your abilities, where you're really maximizing that strength, and you have that alignment. And so it's been a powerful exercise when I did it. And it's something that I've now done with all of my clients since then. Again, if I am not around or if I'm no longer their coach, they have this tool to say, okay, I am in a moment, having a moment, or I'm in a place.
What's beautiful is you're teaching them, again, as life coaches, you want to be able to release them back out into the world. And I'm speaking to you, but I'm speaking to our audience too. When you're looking for a life coach, you don't want to look for a life coach who wants you for the rest of your life, because now that's a crutch. So that's why I'm asking Melissa, how does she release that? So that when you contact her, this will be my journey and I will have success for myself without saying, well, with Melissa, I can do it. Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's so important.
Anything else you want to add to this beautiful time?
I just want to remind women that you can do it. There's going to be moments where you're scared and you're not sure what direction to go in. But if you are a woman of faith, I always go back to that and pray and listen, right? Listen, like be quiet for time to listen for the message and look for the signs that you've asked for. And then just take your first step. It doesn't have to be a ginormous, scary step. It can be just I'm making a decision. Then make the next small step, making forward movement steps. We're never going to know all the answers or know exactly how the path is. God knows. We just have to trust that we're taking the steps that we're supposed to, because that's what it's about, And so just trust yourself, trust the passion you have, trust what it is that you want to do, trust the message you have on your heart.
It's interesting because we can be both sisters, Mary and Martha. We can be so busy that we can't hear some. And then sometimes we can tune in and hear it and we don't hold it long enough and we get so busy again. It's a balance. To be both sisters is a balance. But I believe that the scripture shows Mary and Martha as sisters because we ourselves, we have our own sister inside of us where we have to tell ourselves it's time to sit. It's time to just be at peace, listen, grow, learn. And there is that busy side. And I think we as women wear so many hats, especially if we're a single parent woman or if we don't have children, but we are still nurturing community because we have that nurturing desire. So it's interesting how we have to balance ourselves and look at our lives as important as we look at the rest of the world, or more important.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, this was a great show. Thank you for your time. You guys who don't see her, she's got these dimples that you could just dive into. So thank you, Melissa, for that. One thing I want to ask you is not only how people can find you, but are you speaking anywhere? Is there some place that they can not just tap into your website and all your good, yummy tools, but is there somewhere they can watch you or learn from you?
Yeah, so I have my YouTube channel.
Thank you so much for your time. This was wonderful. I'm going to be watching you grow. That's my thing. I want to watch you grow. I want to say, I know her. And when I find people that either finish with me or I don't feel like is a good fit for me, I'm sending them your way.
Thank you so much.
Yes. I love your base of the foundation, biblical scripture foundation. That's beautiful. Thank you for that.
Thank you for this platform. I mean, the opportunity to be here is amazing.
You're welcome. And I want to thank our followers and our guests for plugging in with us. And for those of you who are our followers, you know where to find us. And for the guests, you know that I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. And as far as listening, as I said before, we're on Spotify and Apple. So for those of you who want to like, share, and follow, please do so. And we will see you on the next show that we have. Take care, everybody. And Melissa, thank you so much for all your brilliance, your brilliant energy, your brilliant spirit, and your lust for life. That was really, really good. Thank you so much. See you guys.